It's GCNdex, and this week I'm gonna really bomb this joke in Bomberman Generation. Initially, when revisiting Bomberman Generation for the purpose of GCNdex, I was taken aback by the fact that it's actually a pretty stacked 3D action game with puzzle elements as well as hints of Pokemon sprinkled on top. The general premise is that Bomberman finds himself on a mission to the planet Tentacles, the first of many puns, to defeat the Crush Bombers and recover the bomb elements, 6 crystals that contain the unknown powers of the universe. As you play through each level and world, you defeat a large variety of enemies, traverse around puzzles, and generally blow stuff up with your bombs, culminating in a world boss who holds an element. Each world is based on a different terrain. For example, Tantasia looks quite different than Octo Ocean, giving a nice diversity to the game setting. While it was indeed a 3D title, Bomberman Generation was one of the earliest games to utilize cel-shaded graphics, which was popularized in other titles such as Jet Set Radio for the Dreamcast and, perhaps more famously, in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. We'll talk more about the graphics of Wind Waker in episode 181, but for now, just know that people were not as mad when Bomberman utilized these types of graphics. Because of the cel shading and the almost fixed position of the camera, Generation almost feels like a 2D title. The camera can be fully rotated around Bomberman, but it's at a set height, and the levels are usually laid out in such an open manner that you rarely need to adjust the camera around an obstacle. As you defeat enemies and explode objects across the course of the game, you'll collect power-ups that slowly increase your speed, attack radius, and the number of bombs you can lay at any one time. When placing a bomb, it will just drop at your feet, and you can then pick it up to throw or kick it across the screen towards a target. Certain enemies and obstacles will require a different approach, so it's always important to assess a situation before just diving into the fray. As time goes on, even more bomb abilities will become unlocked, giving players a plethora of options in their relatively small arsenal. Along the way, you'll encounter characters known as Carabombs, small creatures who have different abilities that will support Bomberman throughout the course of the adventure. For example, Stegodon will increase the distance of your bomb kick, and Pommy lets you remote detonate your bombs. Carabombs can be captured at certain points of the game, and the process is pretty similar to a watered-down version of a Pokemon battle. You don't have complete control of the bombs, but you can choose what strategy they'll use, and then watch the ensuing battle. Carabombs can even be leveled up using the same types of power-ups that you find throughout the world, so there's not much effort needed here. It's a straightforward process, but it helps pad out the game content, and it feels like a cool feature that you probably wouldn't expect to see. Bomberman Generation really shines when you get to possibly the best part of the series, the multiplayer. With 5 different battle modes, you and your friends can partake in standard Bomberman fare, or explore some newer game types such as Revenge or Reversey. It's still wicked fun to explode your friends, especially if you can do it repeatedly and with bombs. It's definitely not on the level of a 3D Mario title as far as the action-adventure elements go, but Generation really was fun for what it was, a 3D take on a classically 2D game premise. And while it didn't spearhead Bomberman in 3D, Bomberman 64 made that jump 5 years prior, it did extend the idea that Bomberman doesn't need to be constrained to one specific type of gameplay. This idea would definitely be challenged in a less successful way with Konami's horrifying dystopian Bomberman Act Zero in 2006. Which taught us that Bomberman can adapt to almost anything as long as he still looks cute. Bomberman Generation received a spiritual sequel, Bomberman Jetters, which was released 6 months later and coincided with a new anime of the same name. We will take a look at Jetters in episode 188, and for now, I'm glad that I got a chance to play Bomberman Generation. It challenged what I thought a Bomberman game should be, and I think that I came out of it with a deeper appreciation for this weird spaceman who lays cartoon bombs all over the place. That is it for this week's episode of GCNdex. If you enjoy the videos every week, consider backing us on Patreon. Even $1 a month will do a lot to support the project and help improve the experience. It's entirely up to you. Either way, please continue to show your support by subscribing, sharing, following along on Twitter at GCNdex and at GCNdex.com. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in next time when we forget how to use Roman numerals in WWE WrestleMania X8.